Welcome to another episode of Angels, Positivity, and Love. Amazing guests the world over with incredible insights. They've all had unique life paths. They've all had experiences that have ultimately led them to help others, to donate their time. Sometimes they're healers, New York Times bestsellers, professors, scientists, you name it. Today, we've got a humanitarian, true humanitarian, helping folks around the globe. At any time, there could be 5 to 8 refugee camps. It could be a war zone, a flood, tsunami, earthquake, you name it. She's done it. Hurricanes and so on. This is Dr. Alison Thompson. I'm talking about, born in Australia, lives in Miami, coming to us from Miami, but she could be off in a heartbeat around the globe somewhere else, wherever the newest disaster strikes, to help organize and bring relief to the local people. I'd like to welcome Dr. Alison to the show. I'm a huge fan. We've had a chance to meet many times before. Alison, how are you doing?
I'm doing really good. I'm excited to be here. And I was just looking at you deeply. I think you look like my brother. We could be like twins or something. I don't know. It seemed like we could be related. But feeling good today. You know, the world is in such trauma, but there's always good side of it, and there's always hope, and good always wins over the evil and all the bad stuff. So
And
I'm
you've had to play ambassador basically between many sides. Even if you're doing the right thing, you're well funded, well staffed, you get into the country or the region of crisis, sometimes there's local politics kicking in, and you've got to figure out a way to navigate it all. Can you back up though and tell us, before you did Third Wave Volunteers, before you received a Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award from the US President, before you were a recipient of the Order of Australia from Queen Elizabeth II, before all this happened, what was your childhood like? Where did you grow up? What was it about? And how did you suddenly get a desire to help people on a global scale?
Oh my goodness, a lot of questions. Okay, I grew up in Australia in the bush, in the Australian bush, so a lot of bush and river and running around barefoot with my brothers and sisters. And my parents were missionaries. My father was a preacher. So we would go off into Asia and live in the jungles and all sorts of experiences out there. So I kind of learned how to be in developing countries, and it was very normal for me. And also about love, they installed this unconditional love in me always, that for all people, like we were all equal. Didn't matter about what color you were or all the different sort of nationalities of the world. So I was thrust into that at a young age. So yeah, that's what happened. I had a pretty, exciting childhood. And then when I reached a certain age, I was a cricket player, and then I was in a very bad bus accident. Our coach had been drinking all day. We just won the championships, and then I found myself in a wheelchair for a few years and not being able to walk. So that's a long dark story. But after a few years, my nerves started to grow back, and I had to learn to walk again and all that sort of stuff. So after that, nothing could really get me down, because I was at my lowest point in my life, because nothing had really happened before then. But it's in these challenges that make you who you are today, and compassionate for others because you've been through it yourself.
I think there was an experience you had in a wheelchair. Can you relate this to us? And first of all, let's back up, go big picture. Is it possible that angels exist?
Absolutely. I've had so many experiences in my life. Starting with, actually, when I was in the wheelchair, I used to go visit a friend all the time. And then on the very last, one of the very last times I went over there, and I had learned to walk and I wasn't in the wheelchair anymore. She had a handicapped uh, brother, sorry. And he was like, I couldn't understand what he was saying. And he kept like, and pointing to my shoulders. And my friend translated and said, the angel's gone, the angel's gone. Because every time I'd come when I was in my wheelchair, he'd seen these wings and this angel looking after me. And that was a very real moment in my life. But since then, I've had many different occasions when things were dark or out there, and then just it's unexplainable.
If we jumped fast forward all the way to Sri Lanka, there's warring sides. There's the government, there's always the rebels. You organized a soccer game in the middle of a war zone, in which both sides provided soccer players or football players to get on the pitch and play a little. And it took a lot of doing. Do you think you were getting help there from above?
Oh, absolutely. Everybody likes a soccer match. Well, not everybody, but around the world, it's a big sport. So we have the army players who are pretty good, And then we realized, let's see if we can stop the war, the Tamil Tiger War, for a day. So we had to fly up to the north where the war zone was and speak with the generals. And like, we want to have a soccer match between both sides, the Tamils and the Sri Lankan side. And then, and they're like, yeah, you can do that. But then we had to get up blindfolded and taken in a little van with a lot of guys who only had one arm and one leg, and taken into a middle of a field with their leader. And we were surrounded by machine guns pointing at us. And we were like, we want to play a soccer match with you. And they were kind of hesitant, but they were excited. And they said, yeah, but we have to do it here on our territory. So then we were like, oh, okay. So we had to go back to the generals and negotiate. And they're like, well, you're on your own in there because we can't go into that area. But wink, wink, we will be just down the road, kind of thing. So we go in, and this soccer match was amazing. But whenever there was a goal, nobody cheered because there was a lot of spies and we didn't know which side people were on. So nobody wanted anyone to know which side they were on. So it was a really interesting match. I was so excited they won because the ref was from their side, the Tamil Tiger side. And they were like 7 foot tall, and all our guys were like really short guys, like 5 foot, something. So anyway, it was a great day. We all had a big meal after it. We all wore the same shirts as one, and the war stopped for a day. But then as it got towards 9, 10 o'clock at night, the drinking had been going on, and the aggression sort of started to settle in a minute. Then we had to work out how to smuggle this side back to the other side and that side. But it all worked out, and then we stopped the war for a day and had this most amazing match. It could have gone so many other ways. We didn't know if someone was going to drop a bomb and everything on the field or in the stands, but it worked out. So we definitely had angels watching over us that day.
What would you say about human nature? What have you picked up on after decades of this? And you've been through a lot of different disasters. Your teams have been through different disasters. Bahamas, Dorian in 2019. And again, other places around the globe. There's been a lot of incredible work that you've done. But when it comes to human nature, obviously we're all going to keep thinking and judging and knowing to the preclusion of possibility. And that's sort of the rub. There's not enough listening going on. There'd be less conflict if people did more listening. Can you share with us your take about, would it be just a couple percentage points of an adjustment somewhere that might help the world become a little more peaceful?
I don't understand the question.
Well, talk to us. Why is all this conflict violence happening in the first place? What have you learned about human nature in all these years of doing what you do?
Human nature. Humans want to be loved, and I think a lot of this deep trauma comes from the deep trauma of the different people that have gone through the trauma. It's been passed down, and there was no healing. Listening to, humans all feel pain, and listening to 24,000 people crying at the base of Ground Zero in the first year anniversary was the same as being in the 2004 tsunami when a woman had lost her 8 kids. It's the same pain, but it's just magnified. It's a hard question.
Yeah.
I don't know how to answer this. Like, why is there not peace in the world?
Is there anything we can do a little more of? How can we pay attention more, slow down more? Do you have an idea of anything, or are you just there to be more picking up the pieces?
I don't know. I'm just about love and spreading love in action. And I arrive and I don't judge anyone. There's no politics and everything's destroyed. And, there's the stages of grieving. You land and everyone's kumbaya. It's utopia and it's so beautiful. And I love being in that, and everybody's helping each other. And even all the organizations who never work together all suddenly help each other. But then you go through the stages of grieving, and then there's denial, and then there's the anger sets in. I have nothing left, and everything's gone. And what do I do? And it's all the different hills and valleys of life, and I just focus on love and loving people. And I think that's what's missing in the world. As a kid, when I met Mother Teresa, she said, I like to get down in the streets with someone with leprosy or the lowest beggar and just sit with them and beam them love for a few minutes, because that might have been the only time in their whole lifetime they felt love. So I try to do that. I try not to push religion on anybody, but my religion is love, and love for all people. And I believe that all the different religions actually are the same higher power that we're all tapping into anyway. And that's what I focus on. We need to listen to each other more, but humans don't listen to each other, and we think we're going so far into the into the future with technology and all this, but we're still killing each other. So we're not advancing. So the message has to be love. And I've seen it win over and over. We've been through a lot of struggles being out there in the field and people wanting to kill us. And where's all the aid money? Are you stealing the billions of dollars and all of this thing? People don't understand in a lot of developing countries what a volunteer is. They're like, what do you want? Do you want our land or money or all this sort of stuff? But I just have to bring them back to this basic concept of service for others. And in doing that, it fills you up so deeply that, that's what helped me become one of the happiest people I know, just from this deep, deep knowledge of love and for other people.
Can you quickly just tick down some of the disasters that people might recognize around the globe in the last, maybe 20 years or so that you've been involved in?
Oh my goodness. 2004 tsunami, Nepal earthquake, the Philippine typhoons, Hawaii fires recently, about 180 hurricanes and tornadoes from Dorian to Irma to Michael to all of those, Haiti earthquake, 300,000 dead. I'm talking about the big ones when there's 300,000 dead and 1 million injured. And then we were doing all the natural disasters, but one of the biggest disasters in the world is the refugees. And there's 150 million odd refugees on the walk or displaced or whatever. And that's one of the biggest disasters. So we also do wars and man-made disasters. We've been in the Ukraine war on the front lines, giving food and training soldiers of how to save lives with tourniquets. We've been in many other earthquakes around the world. I'm trying to think of Sandy disaster in New York. That was $1 billion disaster in 5 states. So there's just so much going on. We used to get one big one a year, but now Space Force have recorded this graph that every 3 to 4 days is $1 billion disaster around the world. So now all the organizations are just having to choose where to go because there's just so much trauma. And the one we're heavily involved in too is the Wayuu tribes in northern Colombia. These are ancient tribes, over 450,000, and a very greedy international coal mine has stolen 18 rivers that have dried up, so the way you don't have that water. And the last big river they've made into a dam going to the international coal mine. So there's no clean water, and all the children and babies are dying of starvation down there. So I'm trying to raise the red flag for that area to build water wells. So we've just started that down there. So there's just so much going on in so many directions, but you can feel crippled about it. But I just say to people, look, if it's just you and a couple of friends, just get your head down. And of course, we're not super people that can fix the whole world, but we can help these people. You might be a little inner city garden over here or something over here, or just something little, but it always grows much more. If you do that and everybody else in the world did that sort of stuff, well, we'd be good. We'd be in a good place.
Can you describe like a relief effort? Let's say it's Indonesia or East Asia somewhere where you've come across a tribal chief who's got other ideas or needs to have a better understanding of what's about to happen if you can get in there and just lend a hand. But there's always something and someone who's saying, wait a second, I'm not sure we're going to do this. Can you give us one of those peace, love, war stories, whatever you want to call it?
Yeah, 2004 tsunami. The chief, I'm going to see him this Christmas. It's our 20-year anniversary of our tsunami center. And the chief, he was like my granddad, everything was gone in the whole village for hundreds of miles. But, he turns up one day and we had a little meeting and he pulls out this really big joint. This big ends up being has all the main marijuana in the area, and he starts passing it around to the volunteers. That was crazy. But the thing is, we started to get in bash heads a little bit because we'd have meetings every day and we'd always ask them, what do you want? What do you need? And he said, well, I have an issue about you giving aid to the thieves of the village and the prostitutes and all the bad people. It should be just for the good people. And I was like, no, you got it wrong. You have to help everyone. Everybody has lost everything. If you just help those people, then these people are going to be even worse and robbing and all that. So we just help everyone. We don't judge. But he didn't like that idea, and he was very upset that I was helping the thieves of the village and everyone. It's just, to me, everyone was saying, leave it up to Buddha, God, higher power, whatever you believe in, to sort that out later. But we had to help everyone. So we bashed heads for a fair bit with that. But also he was right about some things. We always ask them what you need, but when we rebuilt their homes, we built them with toilets inside the home thinking they want a toilet. but they'd never, it was a very tribal area, and they'd never had toilets in their home. So the chief was laughing and sitting down and saying, these things, they wash our bottoms. And he was like making a big joke about it. But then we realized, oh yeah, we didn't ask him about the toilet, you know. So we think we know all this stuff, but we learn from the locals and from the tribal villages. Recently, I was really disturbed with the Wayu tribes. I was with 12 tribal leaders, and they said they have about 6 to 8 kids each, but they only feed 2 or 3 of them, gets all the food that they have, and they just let the others slowly die. And that's unacceptable to me. So that's why we're going to be staying down in that region for a while.
Sure. And can you explain where that region is, where
It's in
that
North.
region is, and what exactly the situation is again?
Okay, the region with the Wayu tribes, it's in the very top of northern Colombia. It's in this really big desert that extends into Venezuela as well. So a lot of the people are in the desert in Venezuela and Colombia. And yeah, there's no water left, and the rivers have dried up, and you know, with climate, and to do with climate and the heat index and everything, but also from the international coal mines. So there's a lot of reasons, you know, man's greed and man's stupidity on how they treat the earth. So there's so many thousands of babies and children dying of malnutrition. So we were doing just medical down in the area, because they only see maybe a doctor once a year, if that. It comes for one day of the year, and then you line up. You know, they've got thousands of people lining up to see that one doctor. Anyway, so we're committed to stay down there long term, and the military are going to help us down there with free security and drilling equipment and that. So it's an area that I believe is going to be like Sudan in the future.
Yeah, I was going to say Darfur or something like that.
Yeah, and nobody really knows about it. When I go to Southern Command or I go to high-level meetings, and they're like, "Oh, really?" And nobody seems to know about it. So just raising the red flag on that. You know what? With being the ambassador to the environment of Haiti, and doing deep, you know, reforestation, or doing the tsunami center in Sri Lanka, or things like this. Like, I'm just a normal person, but I see a problem. I put my finger on it and work out, let's get a solution. And then I surround myself by all these experts to get it done. So I'm not this brilliant, you know, oceanographer or arbiter or whatever, but there's always a solution. And I think we can all do this with everything in our life, you know. We just got to do it.
And again, with the big tsunami, was it 2004 in Southeast Asia that hit so many places and devastated so many places? You helped set up a tsunami center, a warning center, the buoys, everything. Was it Indonesia? Who was it for?
Yeah, the tsunami center, we don't have buoys, but they're millions of dollars. But we have sirens and everything. This is in Sri Lanka after 2004 tsunami. What happened is, you know, the fishermen running through the village, they'd already lost their wife and their whole family and uncles and aunties and everybody. So if they thought that there was another tsunami coming, they'd scream tsunami and run through the village. So everyone would freak out and people would run away. But then we'd have 13 people die from just running away, jumping in cars or whatever, you know. So so we created a community tsunami warning center, because it's really about grassroots up. You know, the top down aren't going to come save you. You know, we see that in all these disasters. There's only just a certain amount of firemen or whatever. So we really have to step up and learn ourselves. So we have this simple system, and the tape goes on. It's still a old-fashioned, it's very old-fashioned way. It's not like the Hawaiian Tsunami Center, but we have points all along the villages, and 10 people in each village. And just in case something does happen, they can give the warning. You know, one person in the village might be shopping, another person might be away, blah, blah. At least one person can give that warning. So it's disseminating the message from the grassroots up and keeping that coastline safe, because all my oceanographer friends have been down deep in Sumatra looking at that plate, and it's still like this, and she's ready to blow again. So we don't know when. Could be tomorrow, could be 20 years, but we're just about preparedness and preparing.
Okay, talk to us about hugs. You've got a patented move, and it needs some explaining, but a hug goes a long way. It counts for a lot. What's this hug thing about that you might do?
Oh, hugging. Well, it was hard during COVID, because our main thing is hugging and loving everybody, and we couldn't really hug anybody. I still didn't anyway. But anyway, well, an example is on the shores of Lesbos when we're rescuing the Syrian refugees, and you know they've fled in terror. ISIS has come up the street, killed generations of their family. They've had to sew money into their children's lining and put on all the clothes that they could wear, and they had to walk hundreds of miles, sometimes thousands, the ones that were coming from Afghanistan. and they'd get to Turkey shores, and then all the smugglers would charge them $2,000 per head. So it was very traumatic to have 100 people in a boat that's built for 10 people. So most of them were drowning or falling out, or there wasn't enough petrol. Here, I lost my thought. What was the main?
Hugs. So at Lesbos, the Greek island of
Oh, yeah,
Lesbos.
yeah, yeah. Love. Okay. So they get on the shores and they don't quite know if ISIS are there, if they made it to Greece or whatever. But then when we hug, so you got this volunteer and a refugee hugging, and you have this moment, and there's no race discrimination or anything going on. It's just two humans loving each other. And sometimes it's just a quick one for 30 seconds, but other times it's like goes on for 5 minutes, and I try not to let go, because then you feel them collapse in your arms. But those moments are the most pure form of unconditional love that I've ever known. So I want people to feel that. I want people to volunteer, or even whatever they're doing just in their own towns or whatever, to be able to feel that love, because it's so amazing. So amazing.
Okay, tell us about one of these fancy awards that you've received. You've received a lot of accolades. You're going to tell me it's not important at all, and I agree. But on the other hand, there's a reason they exist. They're there to honor folks who have, dedicated their lives to helping others. Tell us about the U.S. Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award. That's a big deal. Is it that or the Australian one, recipient of the Order of Australia from Queen Elizabeth II? You get to choose.
Huh. Well, the main thing is, like you said, it's not about these little medals and things, but it really helps our organization elevate to a new area, because we're always, funding is hard, especially now it's oversaturated. So it really just helps get us more of a global attention, and people go, oh, that's a good organization. Oh, maybe I'll work with them. And it's just, we don't sit around waiting for awards. We're out in the front lines. We work really hard. We work, 20-hour days and that. So, it's nice. I get a bit embarrassed, when you're standing there and all these people are like clapping, because that's not what it's about. But yeah, it really has helped elevate our organization to another level, and helped draw people to us that never knew about us. So I'll take that.
Talk to us about your organization, the doctor component of it. You're grabbing medical professionals, but before you do that, can you just remind everybody what the website is?
Okay, our website is thirdwavevolunteers.org or .com. Third is THIRD, wave, WAVE. Third Wave Volunteers, all the volunteers flooding in to help.
Yes.
Well, there's lots of different components of, we have many, many different things. So we have a medical side where we give medical help. We have search and rescue. We have an all-female search and rescue team, which I love, because there's a lot of male egos running around out there, not you, you're beautiful. So we have that. And then we do solar, these amazing solar lights we give out, because they fold down and charge in the sun. And these are the most magical things out in the field, because there's no electricity, everything's in the dark, and it's about safety. And the women in Haiti, they say thank you, because the rapists will go on to the next dark hut, and so this will keep rapists away. So we do that, and we do water filtration, and then we stay long term. So some missions I can land and I can look at a disaster and I can go, yeah, we're going to be here 6 months, or we're going to be here 10 years, or we're going to be here just for these 2 weeks. So, I can kind of tell, I can sum it up. So there's a role for everyone. So yes, we have doctors on the medical side, but you don't have to be that. Like, our motto is everyone's needed. So you might be hugging someone or just talking to someone. You might be giving the solar lights, or you might be doing, making a list of different needs they need. They might need a generator or whatever. So there's just a role for everyone. Yeah, so that's what we do. We cover a lot of different areas. But the main thing is really showing people that we're there for them. Sometimes we've had nothing to give them. We've been on the other side of the world and we don't have anything, but they're like, thank you for just coming all the way across the world to acknowledge my pain and my problem. And in those moments, we start crying together. I used to hide it and run off into a broken down house, but now I just cry with them, because that's compassion, and they feel that, wow, she feels it too. And it ends up being a beautiful moment.
Okay, now you've had a lot of celebrities. Some just pop in for a moment, get the photo op, and then they're gone. But other celebrities actually stick around, roll up the sleeves, and go the extra mile. Is there anybody you want to give an accolade to, a mention, some praise to, for having just gone above and beyond the call of duty for helping you out?
Yeah, I think that was actor Sean Penn. He got into Katrina and he pulled up a boat with a friend and they saved like 20 something people. And he realized, yeah, I can do this. I don't have to be a professional this and a professional that. He just saw a gap and he filled it in. And that's what we do. And so, when the 2010 earthquake hit Haiti with 300,000 dead, a million injured, blah, 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 he texts me and he's like, Haiti, question mark. I'm like, let's go. So he rounded up all these doctors, Haitian doctors on Facebook, and he was organizing from LA, and we actually met in Miami, and then we organized all this big aid and everything, and then we took off and we landed, and we're thinking we're going for 2 weeks, and we end up running this 90,000 person. It's not a refugee camp, but that's what people know. It's called IDP, internally displaced persons camp. And with the 82nd Airborne and the U.S. military were there. So we ended up in charge of this huge camp. And it was so intense, but Sean just rose above it, and he was amazing. And he was babies, someone giving birth at 3 a.m. He was, with a bad pregnancy. He would be in the back of a truck with a light, driving her all the way through down to the only other hospital that kind of worked, and things like that. And he's a true humanitarian. I know he's got a lot of criticism over the years, and he doesn't like photographers and all this sort of stuff. And I kind of understand where that came from, because when he was living in San Francisco, his wife and his child were held up with guns at gunpoint to be kidnapped and all this sort of stuff. It was very traumatic. So he just likes his privacy. But, and he's a unique individual, and he's very intelligent, and he sees things way down the line. So, he stayed for years and years and years spending his own money in Haiti on all these problems. And then he started the organization, and now he's all over the world doing that sort of stuff. So that was a good example. And then we have the celebrities that just come in for the photo shoot. They're being advised by their publicist, oh yeah, you got to have this, you got to look good and take this photo and pretend that you're helping and you're an amazing person, but you're not really. But so they come in, and then when everyone's rushing to see the celebrity, people are robbing their homes. There's always some trauma going on in the background, and then they take off, and then they actually take the credit for all your work as well. But then I realized, I come 180 on it, because we do need those as well, because it ends up being in 30,000 magazines and on the news around the world, and people start calling me, oh, I thought there was Haiti's off the news. I thought you didn't need any help. And I'm like, yes, we do need. So then they put the donations start coming again. So, it's a catch-22, all that situation, but everyone's trying to do something. But other celebrities, I'm trying to think. Donna Karan, the designer Donna Karan, she is amazing. She came to Haiti and elevated them to such a new level, because they made all these little trinkets that none of us would really buy, So she showed them how to make beautiful, different, what they were making, but just elevate them to new levels. So it was like DK Haiti. And she stayed long term and everything. And even on our first trip, before she'd even been there, she drove us at 3 a.m. out to this private air place in New Jersey. And she gave us blankets, like hundreds of blankets to take, and all her smelling salts and all this stuff. And she's a true volunteer and a true humanitarian as well. So there's the ones that just are out there for just, but then there's the true ones that really want to make a difference.
Can you talk to us about the very unusual aspects of different crises around the globe? I'll throw out a couple of examples, small and big. Bahamas, Dorian, perhaps, like is it 2019? You ended up having to clear roads, debris, so you could just get anywhere to get stuff done. And the island had been basically leveled, trees stripped. I mean, just like a giant vacuum came through right after the blade came through, chopping everything short or sucking all the vegetation off the trunks of the trees. Talk to us about the blocked roads and the odd things you've ended up having to encounter, and now that's in your skill set forevermore.
This was a different disaster, this hurricane, because usually it passes and we can go in. But we had a Black Hawk chopper ready to take us in, but it stopped and hovered for 2 days.
And this is the storm is hovering. It's stuck right over, which island was it? Eleuthera?
Abaco and Grand Bahama. And it just hovered. So we were all antsing, ready to get into Miami, and we couldn't get in. So people that were hanging onto a tree in a normal hurricane for a few hours, people were hanging on ropes and trees for 2 days. So it was horrific, driving through on little rescue boats, you hear someone up in their attic, which is, they've got this much of breathing left up in the attic, and you think you're getting one person, and then 24 people climb out and keep climbing because they didn't have axe. People didn't think about having an axe in their house to break their way through the roof as the
Yep.
water, got higher and higher.
And we
And
saw
also,
that in Katrina as well. You got to be able to chop your way out if you get trapped.
and the thing is, down the end of the island of Grand Bahama, we were collecting some bodies and searching for bodies, and people just taken out to sea were never seen again. But I found something very strange going on. And this is, I came across some bodies, and I was like, this isn't from the hurricane. So what happened was that the cemeteries were so low that the bodies were all just coming up out of the ground and out of their, the coffins were opened and that. So I had to collect these bodies who'd been embalmed for maybe, I don't know, 20 plus years or whatever. So that was really strange. And on the island, on the smaller island where we work in Sweetings Cay, they'd held on to these ropes onto these trees for 2 days, until everything receded. So just the resilience and of these people was incredible. So we learned something different in every disaster. We think, when we first started, we made so many mistakes. We're giving money to people in the street, and everyone was mobbing and all things like that. So we've learned how to do things, reasonably in a good way. But each disaster teaches us something different. They're not all the same. I mean, they may look the same with the destruction, but yeah.
And that's the front end of the disaster and during the disaster. Can you describe what success looks like when you look back at the different disasters? Because there's different degrees of success, and that might not even be the right word. What can you describe the back end when you look back? How do you describe the different outcomes?
I mean, everything's destroyed and they have nothing. And then as you go, cleaning up or giving aid and food and that, and people are finally getting smiles on their face. And I don't know how to describe it. It's because every mission is very different. How do I describe it?
Do some people bounce back faster than others and start to
Oh
take?
yeah. Well, the kids bounce back. The kids have lost everything. But after a few days and a few weeks, and we're running around with them, we're playing games and art things, and they're fine, and the kids tell the truth. They just tell you the truth. You say, I'll be in the village in Sri Lanka. And I'll be like, did you eat today? And they'll say, yes, miss, we ate today. And I'll quietly go to the parents and say, did you eat today? And, oh, no food in 3 days. No. So really the adults are all lying, and the kids are telling the truth. And I always say I want to be more childlike, more trusting and more loving and more open to things and truth, because as we, you see, I saw this in Sri Lanka, as kids would turn maybe 13 or 14, they wouldn't look me in the eye. And I knew something had happened, like they told bad stories about us or something was going on, but there was something so desperate to, to be able to survive in these developing countries that they had to do something bad just to survive. But then they couldn't look me in the eye because they lost their innocence. I see that a lot. The innocence goes around 12, 13, 14. So the people, adults, like we all are, they were all lying and cheating and all this sort of stuff. So I would have children in the meetings with all the chief and all the big people, and I turn to a child and say, what do you think? And sometimes they'd give the most basic, easy answer. And it was like, yeah, let's do that. So we learn so much from children, and we have to be more childlike again.
Let's talk about your personal development along the way. Have you learned even more incredible levels of patience, awareness, positivity? How do you describe what you've been forced to adapt to? Because otherwise you would be completely overwhelmed and incapacitated and not be able to do this again if you didn't sort of shift again and again and again.
Yeah, I think that first of all, volunteers are scared to go and they don't know what's going to happen. And I'm like, get your ticket, land. If you don't like it, go home, play golf, go to a bar, whatever you do. But these people can't leave. That everything is gone. And so when volunteers land and they realize, oh wow, I can do something. I got these people have more problems than me. And for an example of my own development was in Sri Lanka when they came, some people came to me and they said that they want to kidnap you. they think you have billions of dollars and you're doing all this stuff that I wasn't doing. And they want to kidnap you. And I said, take me to your leader. Take me down to the kidnapper. You take me right now. And I marched down there and I stood there and I looked him in the face and I told him about what I was here to do and blah, blah, blah. And he backed down and he was like, oh, I don't want to kidnap you and all this sort of stuff. But it taught me about the bigger story. Like, these women had lost maybe 28 members of their family, not just one or two, uncles and aunties and grandparents. And, the fishermen had come back because the boats roded over it, but it crashed, the tsunami crashes on shore. So they came back in and everything's gone. So these women were very angry, and which is very normal when you lose so much. And they would be mad and angry at me and blame me and start to, you never helped us and all this sort of stuff after we'd given them so much help. But I realized it's not about me, it's not an ego thing. It's like, they're not mad at me. Well, who am I? Like, just some girl from Miami, they're upset at the deeper thing. There's no government to help them. There's no one else helping them. And they're in deep trauma. So I had to learn to let my ego go and rise above it and just listen to them, be there, hug them and that. But it was letting go of that ego, which is a really, really important stage in my life, to be able to ascend above that and just be there for them.
Okay, talk to us some more about either refugee support, renewable energy, different parts of the globe. I mean, you're talking Syria, we're talking war zones, which we haven't touched on too much. Talk to us about some other facet of what you all do around the globe.
I think we covered it all from
How about your role as a speaker? You were just out in Hawaii at the tsunami disaster conference, but there's a proper title for that. Talk to us about why you were invited out and what did you speak about?
Was Pacific at the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center in the museum. It's Tsunami Awareness Month was April, so they asked me to come and speak about what it was like, in Sri Lanka with the tsunami. And I really I sat with all the heads of different organizations in the military, etc., and helped them with their plan, because when it's all about storm surge, and when a tsunami hits, you think it's going to hit these areas. But in Sri Lanka, the second wave was a 60-foot wave that went 3-4 miles inland, and that's where we found most of the bodies inland. So I sat down with a few generals and that, and we reorganized the maps for Hawaii, because the storm surge goes up all those tiny creeks and riverways and all the way many miles inland. So they had it helped them at Diamond Head redo their plans just by being on the ground and just seeing what had happened. We have the 20-year anniversary this year, so my phone's been ringing off the hook for a lot of journalists who want to know, want an interview about what happened. It's hard to describe it, but it was one of the biggest disasters in our age.
Okay, what's one of the places that you get away to try to not answer the phone, the pager, the cell phone, the messages when you have actually take a time out? Where's your happy place? And then also, where's the happy place that isn't about traveling anywhere? Is it meditation? Is it the living room? Is it your pooch? Can you give us one
First of all,
destination?
my happy magic place was destroyed in Dorian. It was the one place we'd been going. My husband had gone for 40 years, had houses there and stuff, and I'd been going for like 15 years. And it was a paradise of blue water and white sand. But
What was the location specifically?
I was in Abaco in the Bahamas, and that was completely destroyed. And it's still, after all these years, hasn't come back. I mean, the ocean's beautiful on the beach, but everything's still destroyed. So I was like, oh, the one place I go. So my garden, I deal with so much death and destruction around the world that when I moved in here, it was the sand pit. But now it's this glorious garden full of every fruit and birds and butterflies. And it's therapy. I don't go to a therapist, but that's my therapy. I garden every moment I can when I'm home, and it gives me great joy. And it's my family out there. I talk to all the trees every day and my plants and the fruits. And that's what's really healing. And I meditate, or I close my eyes, or I have hundreds of birds that land, and they're all my friends. So I know it sounds like Snow White, but she had dark hair, actually, Snow White. But I don't, you just need that inner peace, and you don't have to be going to Bahamas or somewhere else. It could just be anywhere at home, and you just take time to breathe.
But you do have iguanas, and your pooch chases them off. You chase them off.
Oh yeah. Oh, my dog fills me up with unconditional love. my dog is just, he's like my son, we're so close, and we do intimate things, like I'll let him come and sit in the toilet when I'm going to the toilet, but I wouldn't let my husband in there. But he fills me up with unconditional love. You walk in that door and after a really rough mission, and he just loving and kissing me all over. Um, yeah, so but we have a lot of iguanas also. We've got a lot of trauma out there in the backyard too. Iguanas eating up all the flowers and the plants. But I've just learned to live in harmony with it all. We have some rats, we have some owls, we have hunting eagles, and every sort of walk of life. But we all have to learn to be together and work together. At first, I was trying to work out how not to feed the squirrels and that, but we all hang out together now. So it's a very healing place.
Okay, talk to us just a little bit about maybe one or two more angel experiences. Have you learned to trust that angels exist enough that there are times you're just putting out the request because you need assistance?
There's been so many, I should have thought about this before, so many different instances, just times when we've been living in an area, destroyed area for 6 months, and you leave home with $100 or a couple $100, years and years ago. But then, you arrive back from the village and you're wondering, oh, 6 months of bills, and the bills aren't too high. It's like, $4 a night guest house, and a meal is like, 20 cents or 50 cents back then. But someone would come and quietly go to the hotel and just pay the bill.
Um,
Things like that would happen. Or just like, oh, it's hard to explain. Um, oh, I should have thought about a moment beforehand, because there's just so many moments when we've been in the darkest hour and then just something has happened. And it's just, so the more you give and help people, the universe just opens up and gives back. And it's that angel looking after you. It's been so many areas where I've nearly been killed. Um, for example, in Haiti, coming back from a rest for 2 days up the coast. And I just suddenly was in the middle of the town, and it was a Sunday, and there's never anyone around. And there was a photographer who weren't really in that area. And then suddenly there was fires, and then our car was stoned. They were throwing stones. It was students rebelling against the government, not us, because they'd lost their universities and there was no way to study anymore. But we just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. But that I saw the whites of the guy's eyes. I saw the boulder come through the window, and I went down, and it was like an angel had just covered me, and there was glass all through my hair. And we had to drive from the ground like this, and we escaped into this hotel, and the guys with guns let us in. But I went to the bathroom and I just shook my hair, and all this glass, not glass that hurts, the glass in the cars that shatters. It was just coming out of my hair like diamonds. And I was just like, whoa. So we've had many angels looking after us, I think, all the time, whenever we go on a mission, because we're in very harsh environments.
hmm. Allison, just tell us a little bit more about what your advice to people, just to live a little more, to breathe a little more, to relax, to maybe help fellow man. What's a last little bit of advice to folks out there to remember how big the world is, how much need there is for just basic shelter, food, healthcare, and so on?
Well, our message is everyone's needed. So there's a role for everyone to volunteer and service for others. Plus, I don't say it to do it like this because it fills you up and makes you feel amazing and you get so much more back, but that's not why we do it. But there's a role for everyone. So you might think, oh, I'm not medical, or I'm not this, or I'm not that, but there is something that you can do, and you can tap into that. And everyone's like, oh, you want to join your organization? And I'm like, that's nice and that, we have a lot of volunteers in that, but why don't you start something in your area? You could, as I said before about the inner city kids, there might be any greenery in their area. So you might be like, oh, okay, I want to do this with a couple of friends. And that's good, and it always grows to be something more. So there's always some sort of problem. You just got to just look around you. That could be the old lady next door, or the kid needs help with his math or something. There's just get out of yourself and just think about others, and just think about love, and about that there's a role for you. A lot of people finished high school or college and they're walking around, but they're not buried yet. You know what I mean? They don't know, they're not evolving or learning, and they're very into their own world and their problems and all that comes with that. But once you reach out to help all these others, it just spills into your relationships, all your relationships, and it's just will make you a happy person. So everyone's needed, and just do something.
We've reached that point towards the end of the show where we might blow a little bit of sage. I'll let you choose a lighter color here. Is it the light blue or the royal blue? Which lighter do you want me to use?
I like that.
Light blue. Okay, now Bahamas blue. Um,
It's like
Now, here's the deal. You've had a really long, tough Friday, and not every guest does this, although I've only forgotten like once or twice. And then there were definitely two guests once. And we have 175 guests booked into February of 2025 now. We're running 3 shows a week. So please comment on something that Alison has said, share, like, obviously enjoy, and please subscribe, hit that notification bell. These are sort of the public service announcement moments for the channel. But it makes a difference. It helps other people see the content and so on. I'm going to light this. And if you've never done this before, you can catch the scent of sage smoke anywhere else in the world. It doesn't matter if you're watching this 3 years into the future. If you're somewhat intuitive, which I would argue everybody is, you may taste it right away. You may just start smelling it just as I start the lighting. Otherwise, I'll use the feather to blow it through 2 screens to you. Just view this as the universe bringing you a little love. Alison, do you think you have we've done this before. You've smelled the sage through 2 screens. Do you think today it might happen again? Is there a chance?
I don't know.
We'll find out.
Been an intense day.
It has been an intense day. And I'm going to use the other lighter. That one got hot. So we're double lighting it here. And we're getting a good, nice smoke. And I've only got one rule or bit of structure, and I have to remember what it is. After 13 years, you'd think I'd remember it. Oh yeah, ask angels, set your intent. Ask angels to get you out of your head into your heart and just to get out of your own way so they can bring you the sage smoke. And now just catch like a campfire smell, sage. If anybody needs extra help, breathe through the mouth. It's like turning the volume up a little. It's getting you into your heart and remembering that there's no tri-iota. And yet always try Archangel Gabriel. So this isn't about words. It's just about being one with the garden. Faster than a rat up a gum tree. Now are you catching a little bit of the smoky smoke?
I smell the smoke from the fire. My father, we used to go camping.
Oh, perfect. So I'm off the hook. I'm snubbing it out now. I'm going to put up one angel for you. Her name's Joy. You've met her before as well. I know how long of a day it has been. If people could trust the host here and saying, I've seen Alison in different modes, and she came in, and we're lucky to have gotten the interview done today. So thank you, Alison, in advance. You've given us some beautiful context. I'm going to put up one angel photo. Years ago, 10, 14 years ago, I started snapping photos out of a total panic. I'm seeing, I'm hearing, I'm feeling, blah, blah, blah. Used to hand the camera to folks, but you can just see directly. So everyone's fully equipped with one of these. It's a heart. Good luck trusting it 10% more during the day. One angel named Charlotte said 7% less thinking each day is the Olympic gold medal standard, or the gold medal itself. You don't have to do much more than that. But here's Joy. If people want to treat her like a campfire, put your hand out, feel what you can feel in your hand, feel a little sparkle. Try too hard, it'll be on your toes. Catch a flower smell in the room if you want, get a whoosh up and down your back. But Alison, can you ask her one question on everybody's behalf? And you don't have to share it out loud if you don't want. What do we all need to remember a little bit more of? She'll flash it in your brain. If you want to close your eyes and listen, you can do it that way, any which way. She sometimes moves in the photo, though. What's the one thing we could all do a little bit more of, or what should we all keep in mind or remember daily? What's Joy got for us? Do you want to translate for us?
Something's coming to me, which I don't usually talk about it, but it's faith, you know.
Ooh.
Having this thing that you don't actually see around you and all the stuff that's going on, but it's this deep faith and it's hope. And there is hope.
I love it. Faith, religious faith, non-religious faith. To me, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's knowing, but with not the type of knowing that precludes possibility. It's the not knowing. It's the jump from here to here to let everything just either be as it is or to allow for more positivity to come in. Well, Alison, it has been a treat to have you on. Thank you so much for being on Angels, Positivity, and Love. Could you give us one final bit of advice? It'll be so short, so sweet, and you will be on the spot. If it was a t-shirt, what would be the mantra or the motto or the reminder you would want to put on a t-shirt and have everybody wear for one day around the globe?
I've got a few things. Everyone's needed.
Okay,
um,
that one, but okay, that t-shirt's been done. What's a
okay.
new t-shirt you would want to do? Something about love, I suspect.
Yeah, just love. You know, it's all in us. It's around us. We reject it in every direction, and just find love in yourself. You know, it's there and it's waiting for you to say, "Hey, wake up!" It's there.
Oh, brilliant. Love is everywhere. Open your eyes to see love. Dr. Alison Thompson, third wave volunteers, doing refugee work and much more, crisis disaster response all over the globe.
Can I say one last
Displaced
thing?
persons work.
It's easy to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, but it's leadership to be in the wrong place at the right time.
That was witty. I liked it. Well, Allison, thank you very much for being on the show.